The episode starts off with our main character who's a doctor and a grown-ass man who's a fan of a 16-year-old idol. Kinda weird but really well depicting of modern society. It was great to learn some context as to how he became a fan of Ai because of his cancer patient from a few years before the present setting of the story. Which at first I didn't really think she would become that relevant aside from being someone meaningful to the doctor's life. Moments later, surprise surprise, Ai appears at the hospital that Goro works in and turns out to be his patient. What threw me off the track for a second was her being pregnant even though she's only 16, which was kinda a crazy reveal since we don't even know who the father is, even by the end of this quote-unquote movie episode. I do have to say they are really doing a good job of portraying the idol community in Japan, because having relationships and having a baby? Impossible, send her to the gallows this instant. Now the whole thing about her pregnancy isn't that important compared to what happens next. Unfortunately, as part of the job as an idol, you may or may not have sick freaks obsessed with you. Of course, we now have a stalker who docks their location in the countryside. But honestly, the scene was pretty stupid. Goro confronts the stalker, but rather than calling the local police, he decides to chase after him himself. Even though he knows he can't really do much about it, especially in the case that said stalker might be armed with a gun or knife. But what's really crazy is I don't think anyone expected him to be reincarnated as their child. Now we have an infant who speaks like an adult, which reminds me of Anna's from Misfit of Demon King Academy, when he just talked the moment he was like born, just like reincarnated. Loki's just some quote-unquote I chose to be here, you didn't choose me vibes going around. Kinda struggling to find something else to talk about, so let's just skip to the part where we also reveal that Ruby, aka the other twin baby, is also someone reincarnated. And once again, surprise surprise, it was Sarina that was reincarnated. It really had me wondering, if she died a few years before the current events, how the fuck does she just now only get reincarnated? Was she in the death waiting room or something with all those other protagonists waiting to get isekai'd or reincarnated somewhere? The whole stuff with the director and movie shoot was pretty funny. I barely getting screen time in the movie and Aqua literally just calling the director to do business in exchange for him playing a role in the movie. Once again, I'm really invested in the lore they're giving us behind how an actor succeeds in the industry and all the different types of positions each actor has, such as the lead role and background characters. Which was a great way to foreshadow Ai's succession into the industry, and how she managed to land even bigger roles after the movie shoot the director offered. The series does such a good job at giving you a behind the scenes of the industry that's just not only about idol life. Now the last thing about the industry I want to bring up is Aqua's part in entering the industry. The visual representation of the creepy vibe Aqua could just naturally give off was nothing short of amazing. Even though it was just him being himself, but giving off an intimidating vibe, what I'm predicting with the mentality he has, he could do a lot more than that and develop an entirely different persona when acting, while also being able to adapt into like many different skills of acting, depending on the role he's given, on the assumption that he continues his acting career in high school. I hate editing, so let's just jump to the moment we've all been waiting for. The moment that made this episode, the one that made men shed tears to a children's cartoon, Ai's death. The cards were set for her fate from the beginning. One way or another, she had a chance at possibly dying by various different reasons and possibilities, one of them of course being the toxicity cesspool of social media. But creepy soccer boy was back at it once again, somehow now doxing Ai's new home. It was very frustrating and sad to see, especially with the flashback as soon as he appeared, to the transition of him stabbing the knife through her gut. And I'm sure it had all of us thinking, could there have been a different way? Why did it have to be like this? Or where will the story go now? So many thoughts crowding our head, but what was most important from that was Ai's final lines. Her remembering the stalker's name to the final words, I love you. Rather than this being a lie, she was finally able to express her true feelings, and everything that led up to this moment now hits us with the emotional impact of it that we didn't realize before. The visual representation and animation of Ai dying to her lifeless eyes was extremely well done. You could feel the passion and emotion the animators put into the scene just from a glance at it. And the eerie vibe it gives off from her eyes going from bright and sparkly to just dark. Not to throw shade, but this episode was the best animated episode of any anime I've seen from Doga Kobo. So going back to the topic of where the plot will go now. From what we've seen at the end of the episode, maybe a good portion of the story will focus on who the father was and the reasons as to why he led the stalker to killing Ai, but maybe not a whole full-on revenge plot. I have no clue what kind of ride we're in for going forward, but I'm looking forward to seeing more.